The question I'm asked most often might be, who is the best dancer? This is honestly an extremely loaded question with tons of things to consider. I really don't think there is one character that is the absolute best dancer in Three Houses, but let's talk about some common picks for best dancer, discuss why they are recommended, then I'll share my thoughts on that pick, flaws and all. But first we need to talk about the dancer class and what its job really is. The dancer class is meant to make the ultimate utility unit. Firstly, dancers can invigorate units who have already moved, giving that unit another turn. Dancers also have access to magic, though it is only one half the uses of normal magic classes. And finally, dancers are given the skill Sword of Void plus 20, which is less of a utility thing, but can be used to make a really good dodge tank. Making a unit into a dancer changes their role in the army entirely. They'll be used to dance on almost every turn, and on rare occasions heal when needed. So you could make a unit like Lysithea a dancer, but if you do that, you'll be losing what makes her a great unit in the first place, her damage output. When choosing a dancer, it is all about weighing the opportunity cost. What are you losing versus what are you gaining? So, with all that in mind, let us talk about some common picks for dancer and why they are good and why they might be a little lackluster in some areas. Dorothea might be the pick that I see thrown around the most. Very common pick for dancer, and I think that has to do with dancer being her canon class. It's the one that her post time skip outfit is based on. So I think a lot of people see that and say, oh, dancer. But she also has a few other things that make her stand out as a dancer. Those pros being physic. So she is a solid healer and will be able to heal from anywhere on the battlefield, meaning she doesn't need to be on the front lines to heal. So she'll be able to dance and have units move ahead of her and her be safe, essentially. She also has long range magic in Meteor, allowing her to support units from very far away. That's just how supports work in Three Houses. You have to be within attack range of the enemy for your support to count for the attacking unit. And with long range magic, just having Meteor equipped, she can support all sorts of units. Granted, I was looking through her support list and I'm not super impressed with who she can support as far as frontline combat units. There are, of course, Byleth, Edelgard is a good one. Caspar would be a solid frontline unit. Sylvain, and then there's more. But there's also a lot of magic users that people maybe like Ingrid, characters that I find less impressive on the front line, and that her supporting them is less of a boon and more just like a cool thing she can do. Regardless, though, there are still great units. That's a nitpicky thing to point out, and and Meteor allows her to support all over the map. Now, the cons of going Dorothea as your dancer. She will always, or I shouldn't say always, you'll almost always be dancing instead of healing. And that's one of Dorothea's strong suits because physic is so potent. It's so good being able to heal from anywhere. And in the dancer class, you'll have less uses of physic. Also, she won't be trading around Thyrsus or Caduceus with all the other mages. So instead of dealing solid chip damage, she will just be dancing. Which again, dancing is great, but you are losing out on that chip damage. And it's safe chip damage with Thyrsus. I understand she doesn't have a crest, but that's okay. She just takes a little bit of damage, but she can still use it and then trade for it, use it, then have another unit trade for it and use it. And with Thyrsus, really your goal should be just to... It's less about keeping it on one unit in particular and more about trading it around so you can attack safely with as many magic users as possible in any given turn. So her being a dancer kind of takes one of those away. She also loses Rally Charm. And I don't mean she actually loses Rally Charm. You can still use it, but it's the difference between... You have to choose. Am I going to use Rally Charm or am I going to dance this turn? And Rally Charm is... +8 Charm is really good. That's a +40 swing in your favor for hit rates on gambits. And that can make a really, really big difference. Also, you just lose a competent combat unit. Now, I understand that Dorothea isn't the craziest damage dealer. She's not going to, be a frontline tank or anything either. But she does deal solid chip damage, like I mentioned. So losing that competent combat unit in place of a dancer kind of hurts, but it's not that big a deal. So overall, I think Dorothea is a pretty solid pick as a dancer. Not being able to make use of Rally Charm can hurt her. But again, that's more of an early game thing. That would be a problem, or a part 1 problem, because charm starts to... Your unit's charm starts to catch up with the enemies. You also like really she has a lot of contributions to make without being a dancer, and that's the big opportunity cost thing here. Becoming a dancer, she loses out on a lot of things that already make her good. But again, solid pick. She does have things that make her a good dancer. Being able to heal from far away is nice, and also having the long range support is great, making her a really common pick. Everyone really likes, not everyone, but most people really think Dorothea is a solid dancer pick for your team. Next, we have two that are basically the exact same reason behind them, Ferdinand and Dimitri. This is less about the dancer class and more about the skill that the dancer class gives you access to. When you certify into dancer, you're given Sword of Void, which I mentioned before, which just gives you Sword of Void plus 20. When you have a sword equipped, 20 plus 20 evade, which on a unit with Ferdinand, who already has 15 from his personal skill, or Dimitri, who has, I think it's either 15 or 20 from his personal skill post time skip, that's really, really good. So Sword of Void is awesome. I get that, and it can make a dodge tank relatively easily. But you lose a dancer. That's the con. That's the major con of this one. You don't, unless you are going to keep them in dancer, but I don't see why you're going to, because then you lose out on a really good combat unit. Both Ferdinand and Dimitri are really solid combat units, so having them in dancer really hampers their whole purpose in the game, when you could just have someone else be the dancer. So overall, I really despise giving a combat unit the dancer certification just for Sword of Void plus 20. You can make busted dodge tanks without wasting the dancer certification in like flyer classes and things like that. So this one really irks me. I understand why people do it. I understand that it is good overall, but to me, it's a waste of potential. I'd rather have the extra move than have, you know, a Dimitri or a Ferdinand that just dodges everything, because they can get there without that. They can get there without that help. Finally, I want to talk about my pick, who I think might be my favorite dancer in the game, and it's not going to be who you expect. And people are might get offended by this somehow, because people get offended by everything. My pick is Ashe. Actually, I think Ashe might be my favorite / best dancer in the game, who I would recommend. He has physic. Check. That's awesome. Being able to heal from long range as a dancer, always good. The combat you lose when making Ashe a dancer is minimal. It is minimal. There's not a whole lot you're missing out on. I mean, you lose Deadeye, which is a unique-ish thing. I mean, Durandada has Deadeye as well, and so does Yuri. So you lose out on Deadeye in that long range, but on Maddening, until you get hit plus 20 from Archer and also have like a really high hit battalion like the SR research group or something, Deadeye is not going to hit very often, just because when the farther you get away, the less often, like your hit chance goes like way low. It tanks. So I think losing that isn't that big a deal. And other than that, Ashe doesn't have a whole lot of really good utility. I mean, he can be a flying lockpick like I talked about the other day. That's about it. And if Ashe is at all trained, he might be able to survive a round of combat if needed. He should have a decent HP stat and should have an okay defense stat, especially when compared to common dancer picks like Dorothea and little rescue mage. What's her name? Flane. That one. Forgot her name for a second. That was weird. Anyways, there's a lot of pros to Ashe, and really his only con is that he doesn't have long range magic, which someone like Dorothea does have, and that makes him interesting. But overall, that to me, that's not enough, because you're gonna have good link. You should have good linked attacks anyways, just by having units who are all on the front line attacking together and stuff. So I don't think that is that big a deal. But the no long range magic is a con against Ashe. So those are my thoughts on Dancer. It all comes down to opportunity cost. What are you gaining versus what are you losing? And I think Ashe gains a ton and loses very little. So I think Ashe is a really good dancer. Anyways, let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think Ashe is a good dancer? Who do you prefer as a dancer? I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and like this video if you did enjoy it. That'd be awesome too. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time, friends.